Hey guys! Those of you who've been following the renovation of the old farmhouse on the Buying a House in Japan playlist might recognize this outbuilding from out the front of the old farmhouse. And one of the rooms in this outbuilding is actually a bathroom or a toilet room, which I guess we could call an outhouse, seeing as it's outside and it's a bathroom. As you can see, a little bit unpleasant, a little bit old and tired and unpleasant looking, a little bit scary. Toilet itself wasn't actually in bad condition, just the rooms were a little bit tired and run down and a little bit unpleasant. So we wanted to get it sort of usable, didn't want to spend a lot of money on it. It's not really worth spending a lot of money on an outhouse, but we wanted to make it a little bit more pleasant so that, you know, when the unskilled labourer is working out in the garden, or if people are visiting for a barbecue or something similar and people are outside, that they have an option there to just pop into the little room, seeing as it's there. But again, we're trying to make sure we don't spend too much money because, you know, it's an old place and easy to overcapitalise again. So happy to put some labour in and just keep the cost down. So first thing we decided was this old door is probably not contributing anything to the situation, so just decided to get rid of it. It sort of made the space a bit pokey, having to step around that door. Stepping in around the door and then closing it behind you was a bit of a thing. And there's a door at the outside there, so we didn't really need two doors. So I disappeared the door. And then you can see this wall is covered with this. Quite often these walls, these are the mud walls with the bamboo inside that we've showed you before. So the old style wall. So they make a bamboo frame and then they pack it with mud and end up with a hard mud wall, and then they coat it with this stuff. There's a variety of different coatings they use. This is one of them. It's a combination of furry stuff. I don't know what it really is. It's horrible stuff, but it's sort of stuck on there and it was peeling, and in some places it was peeling and some places it wasn't. So a bit of a delicate operation this, to remove this stuff without damaging the mud wall underneath. So a bit of a fiddly thing, so we decided we'd better get the unskilled labour onto it. And it's a big job, so we juiced him up first, helped him prepare so that he could get into it and work at a good speed. And then off he went. So this was a huge job, and it's summer at the moment, so outside it was probably about 36 degrees, so in this room it was probably 40. It was pretty amazingly hot, and no airflow of course in this little room, so quite a horrible job for about 2 days to remove this stuff from the walls. There was no real alternative. You couldn't use a machine on it. It had to be done by hand, and it had to be done reasonably carefully because if you damage the mud wall underneath, it's a real nuisance. So had to be carefully done, a bit at a time. Horrible job it was. So not only hot in there, of course, it was dusty and sweaty and horrible. So a couple of days of that. Really was. It was a couple of days of that. It was a horrible job. All these jobs take a lot longer than what they do on the video, you know. 12-minute video, but this whole job from start to finish was a week in total. And then some patching on some of the rougher parts of the wall. And then the wall's actually really powdery because of course it's made of mud. So once you take that coating off, then what you're left with is a really powdery wall. So this stuff is a sealer, and you put this on fairly thickly, work it into the wall with a roller, and it actually hardens, and it's amazing. First time we've used this, and it was actually incredible. We started with a really powdery wall that you really couldn't do anything with. You couldn't paint it or do anything with it because it's too powdery. But once we coated it with this stuff and it dried hard. So that stuff was magic, absolutely the perfect solution for this problem. Because inside the house with the mud walls, we actually coated, as you guys have seen, with plywood, so we didn't have that problem. But out here, we don't want to spend the money like we did inside. Spent more money inside, we don't want to do that outside, so we just want to keep it simple. So the next thing was to mask and cover anything we didn't want painted. So lots of masking tape and cardboard, and some sealed around the joins up there, around the edges, around the corners, plasticed up the window, covered the toilet so I didn't get paint on it, put some martial arts newspapers to work. So a few people on the other videos have commented that we should be using a spray gun, but we don't really want to. It's really a lazy thing to do, is to use a spray gun to paint. So I didn't know we'd actually included this video. Whoops. Yeah, so okay, we used a spray gun, but actually found that the surface wasn't ideal. The ceiling was okay for a spray gun because it was smooth, but these walls, even after sealing them with that stuff, they're still uneven and pitted. Lots of little pits in them, lots and lots. It's a mud wall, right? It's like a concrete wall, but not smooth, it's rough, which means that the spray gun was okay to give us a bit of a sort of an undercoat, but if you spray it thickly enough that you need it fairly thick, of course, to cover the wall, and it'd fill the pits, but it'd also fill the ridges, so you ended up, the wall was just as uneven after you painted it as it was before, so it wasn't really effective. So we just used it for an undercoat. We used the spray to paint the ceiling and undercoat the walls, and then after that it was all by roller and paintbrush. So I went back to the hard way of doing it. But the spray gun was useful as a sort of a base coat, and to do the ceiling, it was good to do the ceiling. But yeah, really, to get a good finish on it, we had to do the roller and paintbrush thing. And then this window, we wanted to fly screen the window because a lot of bugs out because there's rice fields and things nearby. There's a lot of bugs in summer, so we wanted a fly screen on this window to keep the bugs out. But again, didn't want to spend much money, so we had a lot of leftovers from the fly screens that we put on the house. We had bits and pieces left over. So as you saw in the other videos, they only sell kits here. You've got to buy a kit for a window, and the cheapest they are is about $50. So rather than do that, sort of stood and looked at this window for long periods of time and measured it and thought about it, and then got the leftovers, bits and pieces that were left over from the other fly screens around the house, and made one out of rubbish, basically. It was a bit tricky because these pieces weren't actually the not proper frame pieces, and the corners that usually come with the kits, obviously there was no special corners to join these bits together. So it took a little bit of thinking and planning and experimentation to work out a good way to do it. And then again, got the unskilled labour onto it. Oh yeah, we found that the screws to join it together, couldn't really get a screw that was short enough. We needed like a 5mm screw, 5mm thread. So we had to actually grind down all the screws that we used to put this together. We had to grind them down to 5mm long to make them short enough to work on this frame, which is a bit of a thing, bit of a fiddly thing. It took a few hours to put this together, but it was worth doing. Again, putting labour into this place is okay. We just don't want to put a lot of cash into it because, again, easy to overcapitalise. So we made up a fly screen, and then we needed to make a frame for it that would allow us to put it in and out without having to undo screws or anything. We just want to be able to slide it in and slide it out, same as we can with the rest of the house, so that we can remove it as we want to. So there's no kits for this, of course, because all these old style window frames that were sort of, they weren't really, there's not real screen kits for these anyway, so I have to sort of tailor make something. And then we want to be able to take it in and out easily because we want to be able to wash the windows, of course, which the old man that lived here before wasn't into. He didn't really care whether his windows got washed or not. Now that schema tape going in there, I don't know what you guys call it where you live, but it's it just seals it to make sure that there's no gaps that the bugs can get in, and that was the end result. So it's okay. It's around the dead side of that building as well, so nobody's going to see that except us anyway, because it just around that side of the house there's nothing except a door that goes to the room we use for recycling rubbish, little room with rubbish in it, so nobody's going to see that anyway. But even if they do, it's not too ugly, is it? So up to the before and after, guys. This is what it looked like before. Not many people went in it before. The toilet actually worked. That toilet, that urinal and the other toilet actually did work before, but nobody wanted to go in there. We'd tell them, there's a toilet there, if you don't want to go inside, there's a toilet there, and they'd go, oh, I might go inside, thanks. Fair enough, isn't it? Horrible. I think the old man did a lot of smoking in that room. That's why it was all yellow. Everything was yellow. The walls were yellow, the light fittings were yellow. Everything. Same as inside the house. He smoked a lot. He smoked a lot. And here's what it looks like now. So I left the tiles the way they are in the concrete because, you know, you can go in there with shoes on. We don't have to do the slippers thing in there like you do inside the house. We can just go in there with shoes on. Looks a little bit better, doesn't it? Not quite so scary. So it's not perfect. It's hard to not keep going with these things, you know. You want to make it as perfect as possible, but you know, it's an outhouse, right? So all we need to do is make it so that it's not so unpleasant to go into, where people aren't so uncomfortable in there, you know. That's better, isn't it? You can see outside, fresh air, and that window is protected from the weather, so we can actually leave it open all the time, which allows air to flow through to make it a bit fresher in there, but not let the bugs in. And of course, out of everybody, the unskilled labourer will be the one to use this room the most, because he's the one that's out in the garden all the time, so it's all good. Happy ending. So on to the next project. More projects happening now, more videos coming soon.